Good evening and welcome to our special presentation honoring Black history.
Tonight, we are going to introduce you to some people and places around the CSRA that have meant so much to Black history.
That's right, it's so exciting. We are going to begin tonight in Augusta with a look at the history of Payne College. What many don't know is that at one point, the Payne Institute had a high school department that was open until 1945.
This was because there was no public secondary school in Augusta for African Americans until that year. Bria Smith takes a look at the history of this high school department.
You may know Payne College to be a choice for higher education, but more than 100 years ago, this campus was shared with high school students who attended Payne Institute.
But very interesting point about Payne is that also contained a grammar school. And then we find her making another place in history as one of the...
Joyce Law tells me many pivotal figures have derived from Payne Institute despite the challenge for a fair chance at higher education.
During the Reconstruction era, educational opportunities become a primary mandate, a choice, and hunger to succeed in this new age of freedom.
At the time, it was hard for Black folks to get an education. Joyce Law tells me folks back then were learning grammar in their 20s, Reverend Charlie Williams being one of many to graduate from Payne Institute.
And about the age of 27 or 30, he is very anxious to become more literate, to gain credentials. He attends Payne's school, the grammar school.
Right here at 10th and Broad is actually where the Institute first began in 1882 and then moving to its current location just 4 years after that.
All of the stories connected to Payne is very important that we also have places that connect to their story.
Some of those places still exist today throughout Augusta, like T.W. Josie High School, and down the streets often traveled today, like Wrightsboro Road and beyond.
Addie Scott Powell is in the first class of the Payne High School laboratory.
Law says in those days, folks a part of the school lived relatively close to it.
Mr. Gabriel lives on 12th Street, which is within walking distance of Twig Street, where Addie Scott lives.
She assures that the legacy of Payne's initiation will continue to progress from staff to students.
So it's not just about educational opportunities, but educational leading to community development.
While most know Payne College as their destination for the next 4 years, those connected to the Institute tell me the school's legacy will follow them for the years after that. Honoring Black history, I'm Bria Smith.
When we return, we will share the important story of the Allendale Five and how they made an impact on registering people to vote.
This WJBF News Channel 6 special presentation, Honoring Black History, is brought to you by these local sponsors.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s Summer Community Organization and Political Education, or SCOPE, campaign played a pivotal role in empowering Southern African Americans to register to vote.
In Allendale County, South Carolina, 5 activists known as the Allendale Five were arrested for their efforts. Sean Cabbagestock reports on one of the youngest arrested.
I didn't realize the importance of what I was doing at that time.
In 1965 and 1966, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference spearheaded the SCOPE project, covering dozens of counties in 6 southern states.
I volunteered to work. After we had students living in our house, then I said, well, I want to work too.
The group focused on voter registration, facing challenges like literacy tests that made it hard for African Americans to register.
It was about 500 of us there that we worked all summer, trying to get people there to register to vote. And I believe in the course of one day, they may have registered 50 people.
They continued organizing peaceful gatherings, marches, and protesting for equality. The Simpson Methodist Church started as a focal point.
Yeah, this is the route that we took, Flat Street, walking down Flat Street, and we would sing songs like "Ain't Gonna Let Nobody Turn Me Round," or "Keep On Walking," "Keep On Talking," walking, right? And we used to sing this song when we were arrested. That let me tell you, Sheriff Foster, and let me tell you, please, the next time you put us in jail, you can throw away the keys.
Initially, they refused to leave the courthouse after it closed, marking their first encounter with law enforcement.
One of the things that I remember, that I will always remember, they didn't have restrooms. They didn't have restrooms in that building. Now, they may have had them, but we couldn't use them. We couldn't use the restroom. And I had to use the restroom. So they brought me a pail to use in front of everybody. In front of everybody.
The second led them to what Jennings calls the chain gang. They were ready for this one, unlike before.
And after my second time going to jail, then I made a decision, this is it, I'm not going to jail anymore. I knew that at age 16, I did not want to be in jail. No, that wasn't something I wanted. 5 protesters known as the Allendale Five were all indicted, tried, and convicted by an all-white jury. They were sentenced to a year in jail and $100 fines. Now, more people would have gone to jail that day, but because they were living, their houses was on other people's property, and they were afraid they were going to be evicted or something like that, they ran. When the sheriff said you're under arrest, they ran.
They were later bonded out by the federal government right before the passing of the Voting Rights Act of 1965.
But your dad didn't have to pay that $100.
He didn't have to pay that $100. He didn't have no $100 to pay.
Years later, Jennings continues to advocate for voting rights and remains active in community activism. She has a 30-year career in education, followed by another decade of service within the school district.
And then I became chairman of the Alameda County Democratic Party, and this would be my 14th year as chairman of the Alameda County Democratic Party.
The Allendale Five was recognized years later by lawmakers at the South Carolina State House and an exhibit at the Museum of Modern Art in New York. Jennings stressed the importance of community unity during the Civil Rights Movement, and they want the same for today.
Join the NAACP, work in your church, encourage the members in your church to register to vote, encourage your friends to register to vote. That's what I tell them now, But, talking is one thing, but doing it is another.
Honoring Black History, I'm Sean Cabbage-Stock.
Coming up, the Lucy Craft Laney Museum has been a big part of the Augusta community for many, many years.
That's right. And when we come back, we will take you inside this special place and show its importance to Black history.
The Lucy Craft Laney Museum of Black History has been a staple in the city of Augusta for decades.
News Channel 6's Carlton T. Clay tells us more about the rich history of the museum and its vast importance.
Historical, illustrious, legendary. Those are just a few of the words that can describe one of Augusta's most prominent landmarks, the Lucy Craft Laney Museum of Black History. Named after educator and social reformer Lucy Craft Laney, this Museum of Black History officially opened in 1991. However, a tragic event was the reason for its conception.
So there was a young woman, Margaret Louise Laney, who lived in this home until 1986. Her death, due to a fire here at the house, led Delta Sigma Theta, her sorority, to look to purchase the home. When they reached out to the Laney family only had one caveat, that they would turn part of the sorority house into a tribute to Lucy Craft Laney.
The sorority ended up agreeing to the terms and purchasing what was once the home of Lucy Craft Laney herself, under the nonprofit Delta House Incorporated. This historic attraction serves a dual purpose: the sorority house for the Augusta chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated, and as a museum of eminent Black history.
We carry on the legacy of Miss Laney. We carry on the stories of Augusta's community as seen through the lens of the Black experience.
The stories and the legacy of the Black community can be seen and experienced in the various rooms throughout the museum, which house various permanent collections that spotlight well-known people who were either born in Augusta or moved to live here.
For a lot of local Augustans, they'll come to the museum and the first thing they'll say is, wow, I didn't know, fill in the blank. For those who are not from Augusta and who come here, they'll say, I had no idea of the rich history and culture here in Augusta.
And for those who cherish this historical treasure, they hope that everyone comes and enjoys this cultural experience. The Lucy Craft Lady Museum of Black History is open Monday through Saturday from 9 to 4:30. But if you want more information, you can go to our website, WJBF.com. In the Lucy Craft Lady Museum of Black History, I'm Carlton T. Clay, WJBF News Channel 6.
Wellington, South Carolina is a small town with a whole lot of history. There you'll find their African American Cultural Center.
News Channel 6's Brandon Dawson stopped in to speak with chairperson of the Wellington African American Cultural Center community, Donald Moss, about what the center has to offer.
All right, guys, we're here for our first stop of the day here in Wellington, and I am very excited about this one. I got my man Donald here. Donald, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Excellent. We're here inside of the Wellington African American Cultural Center, and when I first came here to Wellington about a year ago, I saw this here, and I said I had to come in and check it out, and it's Black History Month, so what better time to come in here? So first and foremost, give us a little bit of a rundown about what this place is and what it's all about.
Okay, well, the Wellington African American Cultural Center purpose is to enlighten and enrich the public about the culture, history, and heritage of Black African Americans in South Carolina.
Nice. Now, how long have you guys been here?
We have been in this location since about 2000,
Nice.
2001.
So give us an idea about some of the things that people can find in here and what they'll learn from it.
Okay. What this is, this actual building is a one-room schoolhouse. Mm-hmm. That was the original purpose of this building. And it was donated to the project by the Springfield Green Olive AME Church, which I'm a member of, Springfield Green Olive AME Church. And it is the original wood, basically, except for the door and the floors. And there is a pew from the original church here.
Oh, wow.
Most of the items here are by donation. Mm-hmm. The original African artifacts that's here were donated by Sarah and Dan Yuntz, and they were missionaries in the Congo region of Africa. So a lot of these artifacts are original pieces from that area of the continent of Africa.
We could have talked to Donald for hours about all of the history inside of the African American Cultural Center. If you're ever in the town of Wellington, you may want to stop by. Honoring Black History, I'm Brandon Dawson.
To find out how you can visit the Wellington African American Cultural Center, you can go to our website, WJBF.com, where we will also have an extended look at that story.
Coming up, we're taking a look at two men who inspired city leaders to name Augusta roads after them. Don't go away. Do you ever drive down a road or past a building that was named after someone and wonder who it was?
Certainly. Well, Kim Vickers is taking a look at two names you will recognize if you drive in downtown Augusta, C.T. Walker and R.A. Dent.
Reverend Charles Thomas Walker was born into slavery near Hepzibah in 1858. His father died just before he was born, and his mother died 8 years later. Historian Joyce Law says the Reverend's mother instilled in her children the importance of education.
He has the great opportunity to attend Augusta Baptist Institute, which we now know as Morehouse.
Walker graduated and was ordained as a minister. In 1885, he founded Tabernacle Baptist Church. His fame as an orator and civil rights activist brought him a great deal of respect from prominent people. People like Booker T. Washington, John D. Rockefeller, and President William H. Taft traveled to Tabernacle to hear him preach. Walker also had an entrepreneurial spirit.
So that everywhere he goes, he starts something. He's in LaGrange. He starts LaGrange Academy in New York City, the Harlem YMCA. And then here in Augusta, the Negro Fair, Tabernacle Old Folks Home.
One of Walker's lasting legacies was Walker Baptist Institute, a private boarding school for African American men. Richard Algernon Dent was a student there.
So one of the people who had an opportunity would have been able to see Reverend Walker in action was R.A. Dent, for whom he was baptized by and then later becoming a deacon of the church.
A successful businessman, Dent was elected to the Georgia House of Representatives in 1966.
Almost 100 years after Thomas P. Beard, as Augusta's first African American representative, is ejected out of the Georgia Assembly. And so this is part of the great legacy that it took that long of a period to have an African American to being elected back to the Georgia Assembly.
Dent was well respected, earning the nickname Papa Dent.
Representative Dent is one of 3 African Americans whose picture is placed in the Georgia Dome.
R.A. Dent Boulevard and Laney Walker Boulevard in Augusta are named after the two men. In 2016, Historic Augusta bought the home Reverend Walker lived in. Eric Montgomery with Historic Augusta says that over the next 6 years, the organization worked to stabilize the structure.
We replaced the roof. We worked on the front porch, which was actually condemned by then. The house was sagging, so we worked on the foundation to stabilize that. We repaired the siding, we painted it.
2 years ago, Historic Augusta sold the C.T. Walker House to the Augusta Land Bank Authority as part of the revitalization of the Laney Walker neighborhood.
He needed to be remembered, his house needed to be saved.
Honoring Black history, I'm Kim Vickers.
Many of the people who blazed trails in Augusta are buried at the Fitton Street Cemetery. It's one of the oldest cemeteries in the city. Recently, the Sand Hills community held the first official tour of the cemetery during its Somerville Fitton Street Cemetery Beloved Remembrance Day. It featured a special program for local children of the Augusta chapter of Jack and Jill of America Incorporated. The children participated in a call and response of the names of those buried without markers or tombstones.
Very important to teach the youth so they would know the continuity of the history from American Revolution until today's time, because we have many of our burials live during the time before freedom.
The children also visited the oldest marked grave at the cemetery, which dates back to 1850. There are many others that are not marked.
This WJBF News Channel 6 special presentation, Honoring Black History, is brought to you by these local sponsors.
That's our time for tonight. We hope you learned something you may not have known about this area's rich African American history.
That's right, Dave. Black History is every day of the year. But before we go, we want to leave you with one of Maya Angelou's famous poems, And Still I Rise.
You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies.
You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise.
Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room.
Just like the moons and like the suns, with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high, still I'll rise.
Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes. Shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries.
Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't take it awful hard, 'cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard.
You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatefulness, but still like air, I'll rise.
Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise? That I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs?
Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise.
Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise.
I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide.
Welling and swelling, I bear in the tide.
Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise.
Into a daybreak that's wondrously clear, I rise.
Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave.
I am the dream and the hope of the slave.
I rise.
I rise. I rise.